Hey gang, welcome to Ask Mark, our scuba diving Q&A, where I, Mark, a former dive instructor, do my very best to answer your scuba diving questions. If you have any scuba diving questions, then pop them down in the comment section underneath this video. And if you use this Ask Mark hashtag in your comment, you got yourself and your question featured in an up and coming video. But I do type out an answer in the comment section, so you do get an answer and you don't have to wait for the video to come out. Today I'm answering a question from Joseph Dracula about lift capacity in BCDs. So Joseph says, hello Mark, always enjoy your shows, thank you. My question is about wing bladders. What comes to mind is why an 18-pound lift and a 30-pound lift? If the 18 is more than sufficient, why do some divers use a 30-pound? Is it because of gear or steel cylinders? I have heard of just the convenience for traveling. I notice most divers are in warm water conditions with no more than a 3mm wetsuit. Maybe you can go into more detail, thanks. Joe. Yeah, it's kind of the just in case mentality. I'd rather have too much lift than not enough. And my little D18 wing, I'll only use that in warm waters when diving like an aluminium cylinder, because with that I know I'm not taking too much negative buoyancy, because the only thing that's like making me negative on like a holiday dive is my lead weight belt. Whereas if I'm diving here at home, I've got my twin steel 12-litre cylinders that are like dragging me down, as well as any other like negatively buoyant equipment. So I'd want a bit more just in case. Yeah, with this wing, so this is a D18, so this has got 18 pounds of lift, and it's a diddy little thing. So it's nice and neat, it's really convenient for travel, but you do need to have not so much your buoyancy, but your weighting correct. So yeah, if you put too much lead on your weight belt, then you can like have too much negative weight for this little wing. And yeah, it's really down to like compensation. So 30-pound is a pretty standard single cylinder setup, and most divers don't need the entire 30 pounds. It's just to compensate for whatever's dragging you down. Twin cylinders tend to be around 40 pounds plus. You can go all the way up to like 60, I think I've seen. But yeah, it's also down to trying to think of the word, like flexibility, because I can't really use this at home because it doesn't have enough like redundant lift, because I need all of that extra like leads to help get my dry suit and whatnot down, which arguably you could say that my dry suit is another like buoyancy aid that I can inflate and adjust to adjust my buoyancy. But I mean, Apex brought out it was Aqualung, the Outlaw BCD, and that had 2 bladder options, and they only brought out the larger of the 2 bladder options here in the UK. You could read up about the lighter version of the Outlaw, but you couldn't buy it here, because they saw that, well, if you're diving it here in the UK and you're using it as like a holiday thing, then yeah, you'd obviously just only want the larger of the 2 buoyancy options. So yeah, if I had to choose between like one wing that I could use to travel with and dive singles at home, then yeah, I'd go for the 30. But because I only really dive twin cylinders at home, then I can just have this really light travel weight like sort of system. That's kind of it. It really is that like just in case, and making sure that you do have your like negative buoyancy down. You make sure that you're not overweighted in any way. Otherwise, yeah, you are going to struggle when you're on the surface, just like with a fully inflated BCD, just breaking the surface. No, ideally you shouldn't have any like gas in your BCD, and you should be as neutrally buoyant as possible. But depending on your equipment configuration and your own like personal buoyancy, it's not always an option. So it's better to have too much available and not use it, then not enough, and yeah, have to panic to get back up to the surface. Yeah, buoyancy is a tricky one, and it can be quite tricky to explain to like a wider audience, because not everyone is in the exact same like equipment configuration, the same buoyancy and all that kind of stuff, and it really is to compensate for what you're taking down with you. And ideally on a dive you should aim to be neutrally buoyant, so after you've like decided to start the dive, then all of the gas out of your BCD, and it should remain pretty much empty until you get back up to the surface. Unless you're like compensating for a compressing wetsuit or something, then yeah, you shouldn't really need to use your BCD that much. If you do, it means that you're probably overweighted, you got too much lead on your weight belt. And yeah, do bear in mind with like deeper dives as well, I probably should have mentioned earlier, is that yeah, your buoyancy of the wing can reach a limit where if you are so deep, then it doesn't compensate as much, if that makes sense. So yeah, that's how some divers do get into trouble in like the blue hole in Dahab. And yeah, you can get to the stage where you can fully inflate your BCD and it still doesn't compensate for your weight belt that you've got strapped to your waist. So yeah, those kind of considerations do have to come into mind. But yeah, buoyancy is such a all-encompassing like concept, and it really is just down to I'd rather have too much than not enough. But for this is great for travel because it's nice and small, it's nice and light, and less material and whatnot. It's quite easy to move around even when it's fully inflated, and yeah, it's what I really need on a chilled out, fairly shallow holiday dive. Yeah, I don't need any more than a D18. If you have any questions, pop them down in the comment section below as well, and use that AskMark hashtag to get yourself and your question featured in an upcoming video. Thank you for watching, everybody, and of course, safe diving.